Welcome back to the Money Bear podcast. Today I've got my friend Alli from Financially on the podcast today. How's it going?
Great. Thanks for having me. Really excited to chat all things money, random life,
Yeah,
My
really.
little solo cup in the back.
Did you say a little solo cup in the
I
back?
have literally a solo cup. I mean, now I can't see with my chair, but I have like a legit solo cup in the back of my office. Like just a casual Wednesday.
Alli got started early today. She's
Yeah,
like, it's 4:00. It's basically 5:00. Let's just get going.
Close enough till the end of the day.
Exactly. But I love that you reached out to me. You emailed me this cute, proper email where you're acting like I don't know who you are and we're not already friends. She pitched me in an email and I was like, it went to my old email that I don't use as often. Like my mom uses that for her virtual assistant stuff. And so she forwarded it to me and I'm like, wait, isn't this Alli? And I was like, oh my God. I was like, I love that she just gave me a little pitch, little outline. I was like, obviously come onto the podcast.
I'm just trying to be respectful of your podcast and how amazing it is and be like, hey, this is crap we can talk about. Let's do it.
I loved it because I literally am like, all right, cool. Basically, she just gave me a cheat sheet to ask some good questions. And
just trying to make it easy.
You did. You made it so easy. So before we dive into some of these topics that you so nicely sent me, give us your elevator speech. Tell us where people can find you. Who are you on the internet? What's your mission? All that good stuff.
Yeah, so financially focused on Instagram, pretty much financially with an I, because my name's Alli, focus, spelled normal. And that's also my website. So pretty simple. I'm on Instagram excessively, middle of the night feeding, when your phone tells you how much you've been on your phone and you're like,
oh, it's so depressing. I'm
that's just not great.
I need my phone not to track it.
Yeah.
I appreciate the data, I guess, because it's I just went to the chiropractor today. And have you ever gone to the chiropractor and
I go
had
every month? Yeah.
Great, because every time I go, it's my spine is just getting worse. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, you used to just have a straight up and down neck. The military neck is what they call it. Yeah. But now you've gone completely inverted. And I was like, cool. So I'm going to have a humpback in 5 years.
Thank you for the great information.
Yes.
Yeah. So on Instagram excessively, that's what my phone tells me at least. Pretty much started as vlog in 2017 and then from sharing my journey and then getting my MBA in finance and all that boring stuff, decided that all right, going in on this and just helping similar, to you, just help people create a realistic financial plan they can stick to without cutting the things they love. You want to get your latte, you want to go on an all-inclusive trip to Mexico, let's make it happen without going into credit card debt for it. So easy, fun money tips, just like you, to kind of just help people realize this doesn't have to be complicated. This isn't something that, you should be having major anxiety over. And, now being in where I have kids and a husband, I'm okay, you can still do this even, I've kind of gone through the life stages, did it single, did it engaged, did it married, now doing it with kids. It's you can still do it. It's still possible to do these things. There's more factors to it, but yeah, pretty much became debt free at 25, married into 6 figures of debt that wasn't mine. Fun times. Worked on paying that off. And while doing that, still had season football tickets, did all the fun stuff. So yeah.
That's really cool. I like that you highlighted the fact that I've been through all the life stages. So I get it. I've been where you've been no matter what life stage you're at. That's such an important thing. I'm not going to have as much, ability to understand the situation of a single mom with 3 kids. Right. But, a mom is going to be able to teach you a little bit better, probably per your situation. And that's the beauty of having so many voices in the personal finance space. Totally. I love that. So holy shit, though, you got debt free and then you married into $154,000 of debt. What kind of debt are we talking is my first question.
Yeah. So mostly student, so obviously it was my husband's, but then when we got married, I just viewed it as ours because for me, it's just easier to tackle together. I make more than my husband, always have, which is fine. It's just a fact. It's not just matter of fact. And so I knew if I was hey, you have to pay this off on your own, that's going to be there for ever,
Right.
just based on salaries. And like, it's very hard for me to separate that and be like, okay, you do this. I was like, we're doing this. Let's just be done with it. So mostly student loans. He had like mix of federal and private because he like fun times went to school. He played D3 basketball for a little bit, then like party too much and left the school, went to a different school, and then he actually ended up not graduating. And then he went back to school, which we cash flowed for like a trade, which he loves. He's amazing at, loves his job, which is perfect for him. So mostly student loans and then a truck loan, some credit card debt, but like majority student loans. And I was like, we had like every student loan servicer you can imagine. Like there was like
Mhm.
5 like 30 different individual
Mm.
little loans. But yeah, so I'd say around like 100,000 of it was student loans, and then a truck, and then credit card debt. So
So it's definitely a
yeah,
lot of student loans, but it's still not insignificant in terms of the other,
right.
like,
Oh
I guess
yeah,
what we would call not as good debt, because, a
yeah,
lot of us will consider student loan debt not that big of a deal.
yeah,
But when it comes to things like a car loan, sometimes car loans can be higher interest, and then credit card debt,
right.
obviously, we know is
Yeah,
the kind that
terrible,
makes our stomachs hurt. So
terrible.
for you, I'm assuming you knew about this debt before you got married to him, right?
Yes.
Hopefully.
So I was psycho in finance, like before, like I was doing my own thing before we met. So like very early on in a relationship, like we were dating, like he would even say like date 3 or 4. I was like, so, just like let's dive into the money stuff. And like I didn't necessarily care at that point how much debt he had. It was more like, could we
Mhm.
get on the same page? Like, what are you thinking? Or, like what are your thoughts around like money and being debt free or saving? Like, because if he was like, I don't care about debt, I'll rack up credit cards forever, like this is just not gonna, it's just not gonna
Right.
work
It's
out.
not going to work.
Yeah, I don't want to waste my time, waste your time, like let's move on. Yeah, we had like the basic, money conversations, like money goals. I was sharing, that point I wasn't debt free yet, but I was like working towards that. So like I was sharing what I was doing and kind of seeing if like could we get on the same page with finances. He was like, I have around $100,000 of debt, and I was like, annoying, but like I'm not like, for me, like, and debt does not define a person. I truly believe that.
Right.
Like I'm not going to marry or not marry someone based on debt alone, based
Mhm.
on their like money habits. See, there's the solo cup that I was talking about.
Hey, solo cup.
So anyway, he's like, I have around 100,000. He was at that point like paying the minimums, like wasn't actively like trying to pay more, but he was like, I'm on board with that plan if this goes somewhere. Anyway, we get engaged. We had our first like budget meeting, first official. I had a budget binder. I was so excited, like waiting for this day, and it was like the worst thing ever. He was like, I can't, like my brain doesn't work like yours. Like I don't want to sit here and like stare at numbers. I'm going to like lose
Right.
crap. So then that was the first experience I had with people being like, oh, some people don't like this. Like some people don't want to dive into the numbers as detailed as I do.
Right.
That's okay. Like not everyone needs that. Like we just do casual check-ins. So anyway, we went through all the stuff, ended up 154. He was shocked. I was shocked. Like it wasn't like he was lying. He genuinely just never added it
Counted
up,
it up.
which a lot
Right.
of people do. Like they're like, I have around this,
Yeah, I mean, it's something that even I did when I didn't know anything about money is like, why did I need to look? I was like, it's about
Right,
this. My car is about this. My student loans are about this. And it adds up to
right,
about this?
right. Yeah, so he wasn't like lying when he said 100. He just like was like, I have like $100,000. Like he just never really like went into each account, and like he was on income based for some of it, which, as you know, like that's pretty much you're just paying interest barely. So
Right.
like you're not really, even if you're making payments, you're not really paying anything off. And he was like, I've been making payments for 8 years, and I'm like, it didn't.
Oh,
Yeah.
8 years of really not checking away at the
Oh
principal is
yeah.
painful.
Oh my gosh. So anyway, we added up. It was more than I thought. That's how we got to the 154. And honestly, like I was pissed for a few days. I kind of let myself like be annoyed, not at him, just at like the situation of like,
Right.
this isn't, I didn't do anything to cause, like it's not mine. But it wasn't necessarily like I was angry at him. I was just mad
the situation, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you had already gotten yourself debt free, which it sounds like. I mean, if you were debt free by 25, that's pretty impressive. I mean, what
So
was your money
my debt
journey
was
like?
like around 30,000, which isn't insignificant, but isn't
Not 150.
154th.
I
Yeah.
still think, at least for a while, a few years ago, 30,000 was the
Oh
average
yeah.
student loan debt. I think it's higher now.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
makes
So
sense.
it wasn't like bad, but it wasn't good. Like it wasn't like what I ended up having to pay anyway. But yeah, so from that, I like, learned that he doesn't want to do the numbers, which is fine because I do. So I learned like I'm going to do the numbers and I'm just going to update you. And like that were, for us, that was kind of our plan, was like I would do the budget and then be like, hey, this is what we're doing, this is where we're at. And for him, he never thought you could pay off debt fast, because he was like, there's just no way we could do this, like there's so much, like how do you, I mean, he also didn't have like the salary that allowed him to pay it off super fast. This light's annoying. But then once he saw the progress being made, he was like, oh my gosh, like, okay, I get it. Like once you start seeing it, you're like, okay. And
It's
sometimes
excitement.
it takes that. Yeah, it takes the like, and I say that a lot to couples sometimes, because I'll, like a wife will be like, my husband just isn't on board. And I'm like, sometimes you just have to show the results. Like you can't just say like, we can pay off debt. You have to be like, look at the numbers, like look what we've done. And then they're like, okay, it's clicking. Like I see that it's working. And then from there, you can kind of like continue. But
yeah, for sure. That's what's so important about, I've been very big into learning how to better track my goals this year and like create milestones, because that's something that I always tell people to do that, but I don't really do it myself. Like I'll do it on very specific things. Like I was tracking how much I was investing, but like in my personal life, I'm really not good at keeping myself accountable and staying excited about the goals that I set on January 1st every year. And so I was like, okay, what can I do to see progress? Because that's so important in our industry. So it's got to be important in our health industry, our sleeping industry, all of those things. And so I went balls to the walls and got a new planner that makes tracking easier. And then I also got this fun little, and it's such a simple thing, but it just shows the importance of keeping track of finding those wins. And all it is, it's a habit tracker that goes in a spiral, and it's like all these little holes for your habit. And then you just color them in as you go, like every single day. And I was like, yes, this is exactly what I need. And I can't wait for it to come in. But it's that kind of like instant gratification in seeing, $154,000 can seem so daunting. It's like, why are we even trying? I'm just going to be paying this off until I die. And then it's like, actually, if we're smart about this, we can do it a lot sooner. So I think it's awesome. And I also love your description of your first budget meeting, because I think that's what so many of us do incorrectly.
Yeah. Oh my God.
When one of us is like the numbers nerd and one of us is like avoiding numbers,
I literally still have, I think it's like right here. I still have like it is right here. My original budget binder. Like literally, this is what
That's the most unsexy binder I've ever seen.
This is from 2018. This is 2011.
Oh my God, Alli, if you even brought that to me, I would like get hot immediately. I'd be like, where's the fun part? Okay, those are cute. Those are cute. She had little like pictures.
I had like the charts, and I obviously stopped filling them in at some point, because I was like, you kind of like, you do what works for you in the season, and then you move on.
100%.
I was, and like I did it for a little bit, and this is when I thought I'd actually do paper and pen, which I did not, and then it went to like Google Sheets real fast. But I had like I'm like, this was from 2019, lol.
I mean, it's adorable. And for those of you who are not watching the YouTube podcast, she literally pulled up like a plain dollar store. She brought out her little blue dollar store binder with
it from like something else.
That's amazing. And it's got like the little plasticky stuff for all of the files and things like that. This is what we don't want to do when we're trying to bring our partner in. Instead, like for you mentioned casual check-ins. You're like, now we do casual check-ins. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, so like pretty much like we did that, right? And my husband was like, no, like this is a no. This is a no for me. It's just not gonna happen. And then, like I said, I realized like he doesn't want to sit there and go through like every line item of this is what we spend, and this, like, he's just like checked out once you say the word. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And then just like we talk about anything with our partners, friends, right? Like, how was your day? Like, I worked out today, or I ate like 8 pieces of pizza for lunch, like whatever it is, like you're just
Right.
casually talking about it. We do that with money now, like in the car driving, like, oh, like my husband knows now, like if there's a bigger expense, like with his truck or something, he has to give me at least like 2 months to prep. Like, I have a sinking fund, but sometimes like I need to know I have enough in the sinking fund. I want to see if maybe I don't want to pull from the sinking fund and just like add it to my budget. I want to be able to have options. And in the beginning, he would give me like a 2-week notice, like, oh, I forgot, I need this. And I'm like, oh, no, like, no. So he knows, like, he has to give me time. So, like, hey, what's coming up in the next few months that I need to prepare for? Duh. We talk about it. Cool. Sounds good. What are things you want to spend money on? Like, even if I think it's dumb, like, that was something we had to adjust. Like, he likes to spend money on, like, fishing and camping and, like, weird outdoor stuff. I, like, 0% care about that. So, like, but it doesn't mean it's not valuable, even if I don't think it's important, because it's important to him. There's things that I want to spend money on, which is mostly like food or like random things on whatever. But like, he doesn't care about that. So it's finding that balance when you're, married or engaged, or whenever you decide you want to budget together. Now we just do it casually. It was like when we were paying off debt, I'd be like, hey, we paid off $2,000 this month, or whatever it is, or like when we got bonuses, or tax refund, whatever. It's like, hey, we're gonna put this amount to our debt, or just kind of like keeping it casual, like you would talk about anything else with your partner, is
to kind of take the pressure off.
Yeah, like not making it this, like, I know that people talk about like monthly budget meetings all the time, which I know it works for some couples, but like it doesn't, there's no way that would work for us. We just talk about it throughout the month. And just like we talk about anything else throughout the month, hey, what are you want to save for? Oh, we need this for the house. Okay, cool. I'll start a sinking fund for it and we'll save for it. Just keeping it like a normal conversation, and not putting, like you said, not putting this pressure on ourselves to like be super crazy about it. Like, I do the numbers and then I just, tell them what's going on pretty much. We have individual spending money, which helps us a lot. Like, that's our no questions asked money, which I know a lot of couples do. And that's what we do, is like, we each get an allowance pretty much. Like, I don't know what he spends it on. I'm like, as long as no one's going to jail or whatever, like, I don't care.
Right. No, I like that. And I think it's such an important thing to highlight, in that, there is a message out there. And that's some of the things that I even talk about, is like, make that budget date sexy, enjoy it, pour the wine, do whatever, and like really make it an experience. But also, there are other options as well. Like, if that's not attainable to you, working it into some casual conversations. I'm curious, how did you go from him being like slamming that blue binder shut, I don't want to do this, to like getting him actually on board? You had mentioned that when you guys were even when you were dating, he had made it pretty clear, like, I would like to get my money and my finances organized and things like that. But when it came down to looking at the numbers, he was kind of like a deer in the headlights. So what was the transition from deer in headlights to, okay, we're doing this and we're doing it together?
I think the biggest thing was like, I don't want to say not changing him, but not like forcing him to do something he didn't. I feel like so many times we're like, but why won't you do this?
Right.
Like, don't you see? And it's like, then you get really defensive, and like, I think I've never once said, this is your debt either. Like, once I accepted it as ours, it was always ours. Like, I always talked about it in terms of what we're doing, our debt. Like, I never held that over him. I never will. Like, and if you keep putting that on someone, like, you haven't accepted it as your, like, you have other things to work through. I think if you like keep throwing it in someone's face, even with salary, like I said, I've never once, I don't say like, I make more than you, I get to make decisions, or like I get to decide where money goes because I'm the like, no, like, we are equal. Like, I try as much to keep us as like equal partners, and that means his opinion matters just as much as my opinion. And I think like I said earlier, like, showing him it was possible was like the biggest thing, is like, I just had to take it over for a few months, like, fully, and just not leave him out of it, but just like do all the dirty work. And then I could show him, like, look what we're doing. And he was like, okay, like, I'm on board. Like, once he could see it. And thankfully I do have, and I know that's not the case for every couple, like, I do have a husband who is like on board and pretty much will do what I say to an extent, when it comes to money, as long as we each have our own spending money. And that was like really important. I tried to like cut everything in the beginning, not everything, but like a lot of our like random spending when we were really trying to pay off debt. Like he doesn't like drink as much beer as he used to by any means. But like in the beginning, I was like, have to cut all alcohol. And then it was just like, okay, that's not working. Or like we have to cut all like, like takeout. And I was like, that's 0% working out. So it was like kind of playing with your numbers and figuring out like what works for you in a relationship. And maybe you have to keep things in your budget that you think are dumb but your partner thinks is helpful, like your partner, just to get them on board, just to get started. So like, is it worth fighting over a $30 a month expense? Like you kind of have to pick and choose your battles.
100%. I mean, we do that in our personal finances as well. Even as individuals, we're like so often we focus on what are the like $7 things that I can cut out. What are the $3 things? What are the $30, $40? Whereas we never look at how much am I paying on my car every single month? Like, how much am I paying in student loans? Can I refinance? Like, we don't look at those big problems that could wipe out all those little problems. And you could still maintain essentially the same standard of living if you look at some of those bigger issues as well. So I think that's I think this conversation that you had with him and his reaction is such a perfect example of people's perceptions around what budgeting is and what getting your finances right means for people. Like so many of us think, oh, this means I'm going to have to cut out everything that brings me joy in life. In reality, no, it's a lot more flexible and personalized than that.
And like he's been able, and like if I think about him as a single person versus now, like we've been able to do a lot more than he was able to do before. Like once we like it just takes time. It's like it does take time, and I'm not gonna like sugarcoat it and be like, you can pay off all of this in one day. Like I hate, those articles where it's like, I paid off $80,000 in 1 month. It's like, good for you. But like, that's not the majority of people can't do that. Like, unless you're making, or you get like an inheritance. But I think once you get to that point where you can pay it off, or at least pay most of it off, it does free you up to do more of what you love. You just have to get there. And it's like the patience, most people just don't have it. So they're like, oh, this is going to take too long. I'm out. But it's like, if you can get to that point, like you can't, like he's a big Duke fan, and like before we met, he like went to like Duke basketball tickets are like insanely expensive. I won't even put on air how much I've spent on Duke basketball tickets because it's insane. But like he would go to like the random games like Northwest, South, Missouri State, whatever. And then like we started going to ACC games together, and then we went like, if you don't know anything about basketball, Coach K is their coach, legendary coach. He retired last year. Anyway, those tickets were insane. And we went to his final game. It was like bucket list. Won't ever happen again because he's retired. It literally can't happen again. And those tickets were insane. And we paid for them and went. It didn't affect our savings goals. It didn't affect our investing goals. It literally affected nothing. I saved for it and we went to it type of thing. But it's like, if we didn't get to this point, like we probably couldn't have done that. And it takes time, but like if you can just get there, you'll be able to spend more. It's like, people don't realize if you get there, you can do more.
100%. And I think that begins with like dreaming, allowing yourself to really imagine and picture what is life going to look like beyond keeping the lights on, beyond, saving $200 a month, beyond being able to retire someday. Like, what could your life actually look like? And I think a lot of us, we don't allow ourselves to dream in that way, where it's like, no, I'm just focusing on surviving or getting just above surviving, but that doesn't excite us enough to really motivate us. It's like your why, your dream, it has to be so sexy that and so specific that it actually excites you. And for me, I tried so many times to get my money right when I was in my 20s and just figuring out, I think I tried and failed at the envelope method for 2 years. 2 years. You would think at some point I would say, well, this isn't working. But just kept going. I was like, well, this is at least I have a budget, because nobody even had a budget in my community. And I just kept doing it until eventually I was like, all right, well, this clearly isn't working, and decided to try something else. But it didn't happen for me until I was at this point where I realized, wow, there are people out there who retire early. There are people out there who make just as much money as I make, and they're able to like pay off their student loans and travel the world full time now because they were able to save up enough money. And it's like, you got to find the thing that motivates you and keeps you excited. So,
and I think for us, like we talked about even before, like we lived in a real, like, it was like 600 square foot, 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom house, even with a child, like
Mhm.
a bad area for till October of this year. And so Joe was there for many years. We were there. I was there from 2018, so a few years. But like people will be like, how, like I sacrificed in certain ways. It wasn't like I didn't feel like I was missed. Like that was okay with me. I'm not
Right.
into like interior designer stuff. So like for me, I didn't feel like I was missing out. But like we talked about the big expenses, we've significantly reduced our housing expenses
Right.
so that we could save a significant amount for a down payment. And now I have a 25-acre farm, but I couldn't have done that.
Amazing.
Like there's no way I could have done that if we tried to buy this and start with this when we first got married, I would not be in the same situation.
Right. You
If
probably
we
wouldn't
didn't
even
start
been
with-
approved for a
Yeah.
loan, you know? So for
Honey-
you,
Yeah.
what from the time that you got engaged and realized, holy crap, we're in $154,000 of debt to now, how many years? What was that time frame?
It was like 3.5.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
huge because
Yeah.
I think that's such a good example of how it doesn't have to be forever where you're
No.
living in a part of a town that you don't want to be in or in a
No.
small place, that it just has to be a couple of years of really hard work. Are
Yeah.
you guys totally paid off now or do you still have some?
So I left the student loan. I left the 10,000.
Oh, as
But
you should.
But if we need to pay that, I'm fine. Like I'm fine with it. It doesn't bother me. I don't care. Like not that I
Yeah.
don't care, but like I don't feel any like stress about it.
Yeah, that's good.
If it comes, great. If it doesn't, we'll pay it. Like I'm
Right.
not.
But like at least you have it there that if
Yeah. Like
if forgiveness happens, you're covered.
right. Yeah, that's pretty much wanted to leave us like if it was happening because there's been talk for so long like will this
Right.
happen, will it not, will it happen, will it not. So I was like, I'm just gonna leave it. If it happens, great. If not, I'm okay. Like
If
we'll
not, you're
pay
not
it.
paying any interest on it right now,
Yeah.
so might as well just
Yeah.
leave it.
I'm not focused on it at all.
Oh, holy cow, $144,000 of debt paid off in 3 years, 3.5 years is insane. What were some of the strategies you guys used to do that?
So I side hustled a ton as well. One time I
Mhm.
got bit by a dog walking dogs. Fun times.
Oh,
I have like so many. Joe was like, "You're not walking dogs again." I was like, "But it's not," and he was like, "No." But yeah, I had to get like a tetanus shot and all this stuff. But anyway,
no. Jeez.
I like tried everything. But like one had a full-time job while growing a business helps tons.
Yes.
And like not gonna act like it doesn't. It
Hmm.
really helps because I didn't need business income. Like I didn't need it to live to pay our bills to do all this, but I
Right.
could then use that for other stuff like savings goals and like kind of just accelerated. I mean, I was someone who like if I got birthday money, I'm not someone who like I like experiences way more than I like physical things. Like I'm not some like I'm can wear the same 5 shirts for like 4 months and be good. Like
Mhm.
I don't value like clothes, beauty, like that type of stuff. I know other people do great, but I don't. So like I would get birthday money, Christmas money, tax, all of it went. Like bonuses from work, everything went to debt. Like any extra money I could get went to it for a period of time. And I was okay with that. Like, I mean, also we were saving and I never stopped like my 401k match because I had one, from work. Like that continued. And so I was still doing stuff while paying it off, but like anything extra I could get was going, like no hesitation. Once it hit the account, it was right back out. Because if you leave stuff in your account for more than, at least for me, if I
It'll
leave any
disappear.
money in my account, it's going to disappear. Even
Right.
now, it's like it goes in, saving transfers out, because if I'm like, oh, I have an extra $1,000, weird how that, and then it's somewhere.
Right.
So I mean, we definitely hustled for those years. And like I said, our cost of living was really low. Like we were in a 600 square foot house with a dog. Now, then we even had, our son was almost like a year and a half before we moved here. And we actually had 2 kids in that house for a little bit.
Dang, cozy.
So but it was okay. Like I knew it was temporary. I knew we weren't going to like live here for 30 years, but you got to do, if you want to get to that point, you do what you have to do. And a lot of people, like, especially if you are, you're moving to a higher cost of living too. And it's like some people who are there, like, you have to decide, like, if that's worth it for you, great, stay there. But if
Right.
you are barely affording it and you have to make the decision, should we move somewhere at least for 5 years and then come back, to
Right.
like, you have to cut those big expenses somehow. Our mortgage now is like probably 6 times what our other mortgage was.
Mm.
And
That's
we
gonna be
went,
a scary move. That's gonna be a
oh my
scary
gosh.
difference to just be like, oh,
You know how many
cool.
like budget scenarios I did, like mapped out like potential like
That's how I
changes?
am right now with
Yeah.
like going from Chicago to San Diego. And I'm just like, I'm about to spend double on rent.
Mhm.
Can't imagine being like, I'm about to spend 6 times what I was.
I'll share this here, but like I don't think I've shared it anywhere else. So our
Mhm.
mortgage in our like 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, like little house where you're like guessing if it's fireworks or gunshots, like you know, like that type of scenario.
Yeah.
I have so many good stories. But anyway, it was like I think our mortgage there is like 507.
That's so cheap.
Our
Damn.
mortgage here is like 2660.
Dang. Even
It's a big jump. I mean,
right.
South Carolina, for South Carolina, like we're not in a high cost of living area. We're in South Carolina. So like,
right.
but it like from 500, like that's a big,
That's a
big
huge,
jump
that
for-
would be scary to be like,
yeah,
are we prepared to like dedicate ourselves to this number
right,
for
right.
X
Like
number of
for
years?
30 years, like by the time I'm like when I'm 60, I don't feel the desire to pay this off early unless we like
Right.
won the lottery or something, then maybe, but I'm good with it. Like we thankfully got an interest rate before the crazy, craziness happened. And I'm like, it's lower interest. Like I'm like, by the time when I'm 60, it's done. So I will have no mortgage,
100%.
I will own a 25 acre farm at 60 years old. And
That's crazy. That's so cool. Oh
yeah,
man.
it's definitely a jump. Like,
Yeah,
it's
no.
big.
I keep running the numbers a million times over as well, where I'm like, all right, in this scenario, if I only make this much a month, or if I make, especially as a full-time business owner, it's like
Yeah.
my income varies drastically
Oh,
sometimes.
yeah.
So it's like I got to prepare for the worst months and I can, hope
Yep.
for the best months, obviously.
Oh,
But, and remind me, are you doing financially focused full time?
No.
Oh, okay.
So, and that's for a lot. I have our whole family on health insurance
Gotcha.
on my full-time job, and I have really good benefits. And I'm just like not with kids. I'm not willing to give up that, at least not at this stage. Like I
Yeah,
had
for sure.
two births in the last 2 years, and like they weren't expensive. Like, and I'm
Yeah.
thankful for that. But like it's part of my full-time job. Like I have my husband, he works for a small business, so like he's on my health insurance. I literally carry the family with health insurance, and so
Yeah.
I'm like I
And with
can't.
high income too, which I think would
Yeah,
also probably be scary to,
yeah,
suddenly lose that.
yeah. So I'm like I can't do that. But I mean, one day, but not right now. Not with health insurance stuff. But
For sure. You've mentioned that you guys have a little bit of an income disparity between the two of you. How have you guys decided to manage your finances with that big gap? I'm assuming you
yeah,
don't split everything 50-50. So what's kind of
no.
your approach?
So all our income comes into our joint like checking account, and then I do everything from there. So everything is joint except for we have individual spending accounts. Like I said, I just use Ally checking because like there's no fees, minimums, all that good stuff. So I just like pretty much they each have a budget line item. One's called Alli spending and one's called Joe spending, and I just like transfer it to our Ally accounts, and then that's like our spend, like you can let it grow, spend it, I don't really care because it's budgeted.
Right.
So that's the only thing separate, and that works for us just because I'm the one managing it all. So like it makes my life easier to just have everything into one account and then like move it versus being like, okay, you put in this much, and then
Yeah, it can turn into such a headache. Even like in
yeah,
the past when I was doing one-on-one coaching, trying to figure out different couples and like trying to figure out this percentage, like you're going to do 70%, he's going to do 30% or
right,
vice versa. It can get really confusing really
yeah.
quickly.
It's just for me, it's easy this way. Like I'm good
Mhm.
with it. He doesn't care, so it's just easy to like. We have our like freedom, our and I think we're both really good at understanding, which takes time. But like, there's things that he wants to save for that I don't care about, and there's things like I want to do or save for that he doesn't care about, and we're good with like just adding that to the plan type of thing. Like we're not like you want your thing is $300 and your thing is $400, so we need to make it. It's just like.
Yeah. That doesn't
We're,
seem very teamworky if you were
yeah,
trying to like pick it apart like that. I
yeah,
definitely
like
get that.
it's just easier. It's funny is so like our house, like the farm, I technically it's all my debt because it's in my name. Like this is
Mm,
all I by myself because my credit score is like perfect, and that's
Mhm.
not just a fact. Like just because
My
and
credit score is
yeah,
perfect.
amazing. And his is much better than it was, but it isn't. So like we did it combined, and our payment, I was like, okay, run it together and run just me. And like our
Yeah.
payment was like $200 less, just me. So I was
Wow.
like, you're not on it. Like you're
Yeah, why would
and
you?
he was
You know?
and he was like, I don't care. I'm like, I'm not gonna pay more just to say that you are on it. Like, I don't
Right.
we both don't care enough. So like he was like, haha, now you're in more debt. He's like
It's funny. It's like the tables have
yeah, he's
turned.
like, now look who has all the debt. And I'm like,
Oh, that's
but
funny.
yeah, technically I own this farm by myself. No.
I mean, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I know. Like it's
Actually, that's very cool.
like technically it's mine. But yeah, so I think we manage everything together. Like it's all together except for that, and that works for us. Like some people want everything separate. I don't care. It's just
Yeah.
for me, this is just like the easiest for me to manage, really.
No, and I always like hearing different situations with different couples because
Yeah,
everybody is so different. And I feel like a lot of times it can be like this controversial topic, but it doesn't need to be because it's gonna be different. How you do it is gonna be very different from how somebody else does it. And it's always funny going onto TikTok and seeing like the commentary on what people think people should be doing with their money and who should be paying and all of that stuff. But I do think that everybody's gonna be different, and that's
TikTok
okay.
is wild though. Like
It
comments,
sure is.
like I have a post, like it went semi-viral, and it's always meant like how I pretty much sharing how I paid off like debt that was, like I married it. And
Yeah. Oh, I
why
bet
would you do that? You're
that
so
went crazy.
dumb. Like, oh my, and I know it gets views, so that's why I keep sharing
Yeah,
it.
of course.
But it's like the people who are like that, men, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, why would you pay it off? Why would you help? Like, I would never marry someone with debt. I'm like, okay, then.
That's the thing. If you guys were to get divorced, unless you have a prenup stating that this debt is his in a
Yeah,
divorce, the debt would be split
right.
just like everything else. So like I get why you
Yeah,
and like you said, this is you're approaching it from a team
right.
perspective and you knew it wasn't going to go anywhere if you weren't going to pay it off early. So
And
and
I knew this
clearly
before. Like, it wasn't like
right.
it's not like I was like, oh, like we weren't like at the altar, and I was like, oh my gosh,
Oh
like this is
no.
such a shock.
Right, exactly. You knew what you were getting into and you decided what you were comfortable
Right,
with. So I get
right.
that.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
funny to get like, I would never marry someone with debt. I'm like, well, most people in America have some form of. I'm not saying you can do what you
Yeah.
want. If you want to use debt as a defining factor, you do you. But
By
like
all means, go for it.
most people have or had some form of debt, whether it's credit cards, student loans, car loan, a mortgage, like whatever. People have
100%.
debt. So if that's a red flag, like if you won't date someone with debt, that's fine. But like most people do.
Yeah,
Like,
right. You're gonna just reduce your dating pool, and that's fine.
right,
Again,
right. Yeah,
it more. I think the things that matter more is just like a shared vision and a shared willingness to
right,
figure it out together. But also, I
right.
respect people who are like, nah, not
Totally.
gonna do that.
Yeah, totally.
So,
Like whatever you want.
for somebody who may be in a similar situation to you, like when you got, because it sounds like you were pretty financially fit from like birth.
So pretty much like when I graduated college at 21, I like bought a brand new car, right? Because that's like
Mm,
the adult thing
that's what
to
we
do.
do. That's what we do.
$415 car payment. Obviously, that's what you do.
Hmm,
It's like a rite of
standard.
passage. And so because like my parents let me borrow a car in college, and then when they were like, you don't get the car though. So I was like,
Mm,
okay, so bought a car and was like 21, starting my new job, and was like, one, why am I losing so much in taxes? Like, where'd my pay? Because they don't like you don't think of those
nobody
things.
breaks it down for you. Yeah.
So I was like, my salary says it's this, but like, what happened?
What happened between this and
Yeah.
this?
Yeah. And then I was like, okay, I started, corporate job, like in a very like male dominated industry. And I was like, this is like, I just don't want to do this till I'm like, 65, 70. Like there has to be something else. Like there's
Mhm.
no way people just like do this till they die. Like this just sounds not great. And at that
Right.
time it was like I graduated 2013. And I feel like the only big figure I really saw was like Dave Ramsey. And I was like, this sounds so terrible. As a 21-year-old telling me to not go into a restaurant, to not travel, I was like,
Not gonna
this just
happen.
sounds, yeah, like no.
Miserable. Let's give up my 20s. Give up my 20s
Yeah.
completely.
Like, and I was in Indiana and I was in a really low cost of living area. And I was 21, made good money for a 21-year-old in 2013. And like, we went to Chicago on weekends. We did all like, I traveled like the US so much in my like, first few years of my 20s. And I was just like, how, like, there has to be something else. Like,
Right.
so, I mean, I would say I'm thankful I like had good foundations. I mean, not great, but like I understood like credit cards at a
Right.
younger age, and like I didn't really budget or like necessarily save because I went abroad. You were in China, right? I
Yeah.
studied in Shanghai for 6 months.
I don't know if I knew that we like
Yeah.
had the connection. That's so cool.
Yeah. So like
When
when I like
when were you there?
2012.
Okay, so I was there right after you. I was
Okay.
there 2013 and
Yeah.
2014.
So I was there like January to June of 2012. But like it was cheap, and I travel, like
It was
I spent
amazing.
I had like $10 pretty much to my name coming back, because I was in college. I was like, who cares? Like, I don't need money. This is dumb.
Right.
And I mean, I worked in college, but I just spent it. I didn't save it. I worked to spend the money that I just got.
Right.
But anyway, I had like basics, but I wasn't necessarily building wealth at 21. And then
Right.
I from there was like, I feel like I need to figure something out that's not like the super rigid, Dave Ramsey
Right.
approach.
Something
At
in
that point,
between.
yeah, there wasn't that many people, I feel like, talking about it, and at that point of
There
like,
was no
hey,
fin talk. Yeah,
yeah,
there wasn't. I don't even there. I mean, Instagram was pretty like new
yeah,
still. It was only a
so
few years
new.
old.
Yeah, it was like trying to figure that out of like there has to be something else
Right.
besides this terrible advice.
Right. I love it. So for somebody who may be facing a similar situation of just kind of like either trying to figure it out, like they're starting from the beginning, they're like, I don't know what to do. Like Allie and Chloe seem to have it figured out, but like, what is my step one?
Right.
Or either or giving tips for ending up in a relationship where you realize, oh, I'm suddenly in a lot of debt. Like, what are your tips? What are your top tips?
So for the first one, the one tip I'll say is, and I know you say it too, is like you have to know your numbers before you do anything else. No, it's terrifying, and like some people truly have like crippling anxiety over it. Like I've worked, and I bet you have too, of people who like genuinely are terrified. Like
Yep.
they halt, and I get that. Like, and I'm not saying it's going to be easy. You can do this in like a month period. Check one thing a day. Check one thing, take a break, set a timer for 30 minutes, do what you can. But like you cannot do anything else until you like successfully do anything else until you know those numbers. Like you could try to budget, you can try to create a debt payoff plan, but if you don't know your numbers, there's no point. So that would be like a tip for starting out. You have to do that, and like your actual numbers, not what like we say on Instagram or what someone says on Instagram. Like you need to know what you're doing. And then for couples, I would say like going into it, you want to find the balance between like knowing you're okay financially and then like also coming, like I knew if something happened, I'd be fine.
Right.
Like, and I'm not saying that anything will, but like I had the financial literacy and I knew like I'm good.
Well, that's huge for like the folks who are like, why would you pay off your husband's debt? You did it knowing the entire time that if something were to happen, you would be fine.
Right. 100%.
That's very different than like going out of your way or getting out, like putting yourself in financial peril to help somebody else. It's like, you're like, I got my mask on. I can help him get his on now too.
And I knew, like, I never touched his debt or helped him pay until we were married. Like, I
Right.
knew the debt was there the whole time, but I'm not making payments on your debt, not helping you pay anything until we're married. Like, and that was a rule I set. I know some people combine finances earlier, and that's your own choice. But like, I was not making a payment,
Right?
until,
No.
like this, till we like truly legally are a joint unit. Because I podcast episode for another time, but like I was engaged out of college at 22 years old, and I called off a wedding right before, like to not my husband, and no regrets about it. But like I almost didn't do it because I was scared because we had wedding deposits.
I'm sure that's a real story and a real scenario for a lot of people.
Like I literally was like I was turning 22, and I was like $7,000 was so much money, and I was like, I mean, I'm not going to get the money back, so guess what? Like, and it's just like, are you like? I know that like insane, but
I have the same damn thought because I'm so practical. Like I am more practical, like to the point where it will impact my happiness many times. And like I would 100% do that. My sister called off her wedding a couple years ago, and it was the same amount. She was going to lose $7,000, and she's just like, that decision at that age would be terrifying.
Oh yeah. I mean, like I said, I was turning 22 and I was like, guess I got to go through with it. Like, what else do you do? And I remember telling a friend and she was just like, just call it off. And I was, what do you mean? She's like, just don't do it. And I was like, huh.
What a good friend. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
And once I said it out loud, it was like done deal. I was like, there was nothing you could have said to change my mind another way. But it's just those things like that was a factor for me, even like meeting my husband, of like knowing like I'm fine, I'm good, I'm going into this, even if you go into it with debt, it's just you need that financial literacy that you can both get on that same page. And having those conversations, obviously, in dating or engagement is way easier. If you're married, you can still have these conversations. Obviously, you're not like screwed. But if you can have these conversations like, early on, it's going to help you so much. And I'm so thankful we did have those like, really early on in our relationship, even just to see like his thoughts around saving money, or like, what do you kind of see for your future? Like if he was like, I want, I can make money, and I want a wife who like only I want 7 kids and a wife who sits at home and doesn't work. Like that's not me. And I know that some people, and that's fine, but like, that's not going to work for me personally. So you have to have those tough conversations, because if you don't, it's going to come up at some point. So it's easier before you're like, legally married if possible.
Yeah. And I think it's even easier before you're super attached. So it's like, you got to have those conversations early on. I remember even with my boyfriend now, those who are on the pod, they don't know a lot of details yet. So I'm going to try and be as vague as I possibly can. But I think it was our 3rd date where I asked him about his finances, and I was like, all right, so how much do you make? Here's how much I made. What is your debt? What's your situation? And like, I know all of those things now. And so it's like, okay, I can move forward with information. And that's all we're doing, is collecting information. When we're in the dating stage, is all about collecting information.
Totally. To see like, is this worth pursuing? Like, is this worth putting time and effort into this? But yeah, I think knowing like financial literacy at any stage is, I know it sounds really basic, but like it really just makes you feel more confident too going into a relationship or marriage, knowing
or
like
anything.
You know what to do if something happened. Like know what your steps would be. And I think that just brings a level of confidence that like into any kind of situation or relationship. So
100%. All right, we're coming up on time. I have one more question for you, but before I ask that question that I ask everybody, where can everybody find you again? Shout yourself out. Is there a way people can work with you? And we'll leave links to everything down below.
Yeah, so Instagram, Financially Focused. My website has everything you would need on there, so you don't get like scammed by the weird fake bots, that everyone has. But I do have a free course, and I have a private podcast. It's 5 episodes. Each episode's less than 10 minutes to try to just give you like quick actionable tips. Then you're done, move on. So those are great places to start if you're like, okay, this all sounds good, but like, what do I actually do from here? Of course, our podcast, however you absorb information best, would be the best info. And yeah, from there, I have a program that's paid, but I always say like, start with this, see how it goes, and then you can kind of go from there.
I love that. Yeah, you got to start with the free stuff. See if you even like these people.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, perfect. We will leave links to that down in the show notes. And my final question for you, which I think you already know what it is what is your very first money memory?
Gosh, I think my first money memory is when I bought my first bike, like a bicycle. My parents made me save, and I had like my piggy bank where I had to like, pull the dollars out of the bottom, when they get like stuck,
Yep. And you're almost break them.
Yeah. You're like pulling the money out. And I think it was like 100 or 200. Like I had to save up for like a year or so of like random. I don't know if they threw in money in my bank account. I don't really know, in there to help. Not really sure. But I like went to the store like with my crinkled, like money, and like literally bought my first bicycle. That's probably my earliest like that I can think of where I like had understood that money had tangible value, value to it, not like fake money. Like we used to convince my sister that all money was worth the same amount, like a quarter was the same as a penny, because she was little. So we're like, we'll sell, like we're gonna buy this for 1 monies, and like give her a penny, like from her room.
Oh my god, like, that's so cute.
Like, buy stuff from her room of like, because she just thought like a penny was like, $1 million. I'd be like, we'll pay you 1 monies,
Oh my god, that makes my heart just be like.
So those would be like the things I could think of when I think about money.
That's so cute. Those sound like positive memories too. Like
Yeah.
I always know when I ask that question, it's going to be a toss up. It's either going to be negative or it's going to be positive. It could be neutral, but most of the time it's one or the other. Because if it sticks with you, it's
Oh,
either
yeah.
good or it's either bad.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I'm really glad you reached out. I'm really glad we got to connect, and congratulations on your farm.
Thanks. I know. I have like a guest room now. I have space. It's like
That's
one day
good.
I'm gonna have like a separate barn. I told Joe like I want a separate like loft garage that I can like go hide out by myself.
Yes, a shed, but instead of a
Yeah, like,
shed, a she barn.
yeah. I mean, I have 2 boys now, so I need to be able to like escape and be like, see you on Sunday. Like,
100%. I can only imagine. So.
yeah.
Awesome. We're glad you came on. We appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
All right. I hope you guys enjoyed that. As a friendly reminder, since we are talking about all things finance, please note that everything that is on the show is for entertainment and education purposes only. We are not financial advisors. We are just financial enthusiasts. So if you're trying to get any information or advice for your specific situation, please consult with a financial professional who knows you and your situation. But beware of scammers always. And if you want to see our full terms and conditions, you can hit that up in the links down below in the show notes. And if you listened and you're like, you know what, that sounds cool, and I kind of want to get my finance journey together, and I really want to work on my why and understand and get excited about this, well, then I've got a free guide for you. Head on over to thelazyinvestorscourse.com/guide. That link is down in the show notes. It's always down in the show notes, and that'll contain a bunch of free resources to get you started today. So thank you guys so much for being here, and I'll see you next week. Bye.